Hello, everyone. This is Pharaoh Vincent, and I'm wanting to do a bit of a different video. Um, it's well timed, actually. Uh, Fastidious, the penultimate creator in our space, has made a video on soulstones and where to use them. And I went ahead and reached out because I want to piggyback off of the conversation that he's starting and really narrow it down to where I'd play the most. Um, because I feel like he's given great general advice, but I want to go a step further, right? This is for those people in like the upper, I don't know, I guess tier of, Guild versus Guild, Arena, all these other things. And really, I want to expand on it because his advice is great. I'm not going to say that I disagree with most of the things that he's listed, actually, but I want to add to it. And I feel like there's a couple of things that we really do need to talk about that are different. The second part of this video, because that's part one, part two is going to be a bit of a rant, a bit of an upsetness, because like part one is how I want this to work. Part two is how it actually works and what the legitimate, if you're playing in the top 30 guilds in Guild versus Guild, what you should be doing. So if you're an Overlord GVG player, you can't follow Fastidious's video, and that pains me to admit this, but it's true. Because it's just not good advice for us because of the way the game is currently coded, and I think that this needs to change, but I digress. We will get into that, I promise. So again, without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in. I'm actually going to play a part of his video where he explains his tier list ranking, and then we're going to jump to another part, and then we're going to talk about it. This is after he's explaining where this comes from. I'm going to put a link to the full video. It is 33 minutes long. If we did a full reaction to this, this would be like a 3-hour long video. We're not doing that today. So instead, we're going to play this through where he's talking about Ingrid, and then we will pick up from there. There's probably going to be a few pauses. But without further ado, here we go.
Let's start with that list for the polished soulstones. These are the ones that can be used on lords. So for that reason, full stop, you should only ever use them on lords. If you check every name on this list, we've mentioned every single lord. That is with good reason. Some of them are mentioned a couple times. You see Soulcadens. You can see Valderon. You can see Ingrid and Ingrid. That's because different awakenings have different priorities. But it is, in my 100% expert opinion, never, ever flippin' never use these on any hero that is not a lord. So you can see in that bottom tier, it's literally titled literally never and just unsub for me. You don't have to unsub, but if you're going to use one of these things on a non-lord, and you can see who's in that category, any non-lord, I don't care if it's Sun Wukong or Ajax or Ymerit or Kagiri or so on, I don't care.
For the record, I don't care either. Don't do it. I'm with Fastidious. True story. Before the unpolished soulstones were even announced, I did put one on Alistair because Alistair's A1 is great. And then he got reset recently when we got our new reset book, the most recent one, and I put that into Ingrid, who's now A5 for a reason, right? Because I managed to get one, and then I reset Alistair to get the two that I needed from an A3 Ingrid to an A5 Ingrid because that's important. I already had A1 Praetus, so like we're actually on par with like where this first top choice is because that's literally how I worked my account. And then from here, I actually dropped in and went straight to the A5 Ingrid because it's broken.
These are not for non-lords. Now that unpolished soulstones were introduced into the game, never should you use the polished ones on a non-lord hero. You might be saying, well, I looked at your list and the only lords I have are Elder and Demi and Venoma. So shouldn't I just use it somewhere else? No, just wait till you get a better lord. I waited for almost a year before ever properly using them. The thing you can do is leverage reset books, which they just started giving as rewards, and you can kind of mule them around. However, they should still be muled on better options. So you can see I wanted a soulstone on my Twin Fiend way back in the day to get him A1. This turned him into a soulstone mule for me. So I was really comfortable eventually putting a full 3 soulstones into him, getting him A5, because I know one day whenever I need it, I will reset him. I actually have 2 reset books, but anyone that's been playing in December, we got a free one as a login reward, totally free. I would like to think these reset books will come at least once every 6 months, so those you can leverage. But still, if you're working over here with King Hearts, Torador, and Araka, and you're like, should I put a soulstone into them? In my opinion, it's the hardest no ever. And even more importantly, you should not then say, well, then I'll just put a soulstone into Hex. An unpolished soulstone, sure, but a normal soulstone, I think that's just like criminal, and it goes against the entire theory of soulstones and any advice I will ever give you. So I want to begin with that. Now, let's dive in. I want to explain the tiers, really just the top tier for both. It is called Top Choice, and I hope you take that title with a lot of gravitas. It's important why I'm calling it that. These are definitive top choices. These are, if you want to min-max your account, never use a soulstone on any heroes but these, unless you have reset books and you want to use it on a slightly lower tier. Never, ever do it. That is my opinion. 100%. These are the heroes in the current meta of the game for their respective soulstone types that the soulstones are for. This changes as we get new heroes, as we get new content, but where it stands now, heading into January 2025, these are the heroes your soulstones are for. So you can put them on other ones, and we'll go through all of that, especially the immediate tier underneath if you need stuff like that. However, the ultimate goal is to hit the goal awakenings. So let's talk about that now. You'll see on every hero I've put in here, when it's relevant, there's a parentheses and I write the awakening. This is really key to understand. If you have, let's say, Ingrid and 2 soulstones, I do not think you should be putting 2 soulstones into her. If you want to, because you have a big picture view and you know the second you get the 3rd, it's going on her, regardless if you pull Praetus or 2 Praetus or Praetus and Valderon and Yovar, whatever, that is fine. However, you should always be stoning, right, with the ultimate goal to hit the proper awakening. There is no reason ever, if you have an A0 hex, in my opinion, to A1 your hex with a soulstone. Do not do it until you know you can hit the key goal awakening. Otherwise, it's a waste of your soulstone, in my opinion. It's a total waste. You can do what you want. It's your thing. It's your discretion. But there are key awakenings that change the hero, that transform the hero, like Hex is A3, like Sun Wukong at A3, stuff like that, like Praetus at already A1. So if you can't get stuff like that, obviously Praetus A1 you can get immediately, but with the other examples, just sit on them. Be patient. If you can't be patient, then you can take all this with a grain of salt, but that is my advice. So let's begin. Your top choice for your legendary.
So, kind of to pick up, now that the explanation is done, 100% agree, right? Like, you need to make sure that you're hitting your key awakenings when you're using your most rare resource, right? Like, I mean, I've got pretty decent RNG when it comes to these. I've gotten a few. I think to date of the regular legendary hero soulstone, polished soulstones, if you will, I want to say that I've gotten like 4, 5 maybe from drops. I don't know the exact number. I know that like Ingrid is currently A5 and I've pulled 3 copies. 3 total Ingrid. So I've gotten A2 on Ingrid naturally, so that means I've gotten 3 on her, and I put another 2 on Valderon. So I've gotten like 5 of them. Fastidious here has been playing a lot longer than me, actually twice as long as me, and I've gotten 5. So again, to put into perspective, I've been fairly blessed in that regard. Even with that, I already had A1 Ingrid, A1 Praetus when I was starting to pull Ingrid, right? Because I managed to pull 2 copies of Praetus on his banner over the the anniversary event. And then right after I pulled Ingrid and an extra copy. So I had an A1 Ingrid. I pulled another copy off banner, and then I put 3 soulstones into her. And I have 2 soulstones right now into Valderon. And again, I did those 2 soulstones into Valderon before I even pulled Praetus or Ingrid. Like they've been on Valderon forever. So yeah, you kind of get the idea. Like there are certain heroes that I think that is absolutely key on. And I feel like, really and truthfully, I don't disagree with anything that he has on there. I just want to add to what is currently here. Because there is a definite thing for guild versus guild, specifically guild versus guild, that you should consider. I want to move specifically Torador off the no list to if you need, and it's an if you need Torador A5. Because if you have an A4 Torador and you have one stone and you're willing to put that in there to get him A5, that is going to fundamentally change your defense in guild versus guild. Having an extra life on Torador is friggin' massive. Do not underestimate how annoying an A5 Torador is paired with like a Carnelian or a Lily. It doesn't matter. It is so frustratingly annoying to try to kill your way through an A5 Torador. You basically can't do it. And so a lot of what you're going to end up doing when you have those is trying to circumvent it by rushing through, and there's ways to stop that from happening. So again, A5 Torador is worth it, in my humble opinion. You can make that argument for yourself. And then kind of beyond that is going to be Yovar all the time. So Yovar, if anyone doesn't know, is the highest BP Lord in the game. So out of all the Lords in the entire game, he is the highest BP Lord. We're going to talk a lot more about Yovar down the line, but you can always put a soulstone into Yovar because he is going to give you the most BP on Maw specifically. So just think about it from that perspective. The other one that isn't here, or at least the other awakening that isn't here, is going to be Cyrus A2. So why am I calling out Cyrus A2? Specifically for defense values, right? This is going to be on defense only, right? Cyrus's A2 is a faction-wide 5% penetration buff. That's a lot. At my current max-ish, I'm not even going to go full max, but just at my current affiliation, if I quick equip my highest BP generally hero, which is going to be Jira, which I can usually get her to like 124,000. Right now she's at 116. And we pull up the Pharaoh and we just affiliate Jira onto that bad boy. You're going to see 28,774 magic res, right? Magic resistance. 5% of that is going to be another 1,400 off. So that is 1,400 attack for an A2, which I consider to be very worth it. Especially given the fact that, like, the big issue that you're going to run into with Esoteria teams is they generally have an issue with Pharaoh stacking. So that gives you the opportunity to deal damage to Pharaohs, which is kind of important. So, jump back over to the video. We're going to kick ahead to the polished side. I'm going to let him kind of explain a bit. And then from there, we're going to talk even more. I don't actually remember what this section is, so we're going to listen to it. Here we go.
But now we're talking about our non-lords. As we enter the unpolished soulstone portion of the video, I want to start by saying when it comes to deciding between putting soulstones into Iax and Ymerit versus Kagiri and Sung Wukong, to me, it really comes down to where you are at in the game. If you still must max Guild Boss 1 for 50k, Guild Boss 2 for 120k, and you need a DPS carry, go for Sun Wukong or Kagiri. If you're thinking big picture, if you're end game, if you have late game aspirations and you're thinking PvP, what can globally most broadly help my account, then go for Ymeric or Ix. In general, the unnameable dragons and the top limited heroes are always the best choice because they are the rarest and they are very special. So obviously, the really exciting thing is you can use your Unpolished Soulstones on Ix and Ymeric. These are unnameable heroes. They're completely versatile. They can be in any faction. They give damage boosts to everybody, and they are phenomenal. The game gives them Lord rates, and they reset your Lord Pity on Ancients, but in Conflict, in so many other ways, the game clearly doesn't consider them Lords, and this is a great example. You can use your non-Lord.
I really hope they change that Lord Pity thing when it comes to Ymeric and Ix. Or Ajax. I know a lot of people like to call him Ix because it sounds really fancy. Unfortunately, he has like the White Knight aesthetic. When you read through his story and you go through it. And so really and truthfully, it's probably going to be an Ajax thing because it's not like a Native American or even like a soft J, like Hispanic kind of a vibe where you're going to run into like Jose, like a lot of those other ones where you can get that like Ajax sound where it's super, fancy because it's going to be an Anglo based thing given the White Knight backstory and his whole like thing. So anyways, aside, watch my lore video if you want to understand more about that. But I hope they change that because it's stupid.
Lord Soulstones, your Unpolished Soulstones on them. So we go to Ymeric over here, who I'm lucky enough to have. With both these guys, all their awakenings up to A3 make them so much stronger. So I think if you just want to be mindless, it's always a good investment up to A3 to go with Ymeric and Ix. We go to Awakenings now. The A2 on both is crazy. It boosts their attack, but the key thing is it boosts their Lord skill or their unnameable skill. It is called Ancient Blood, and typically, just by them being in your team comp, even when not deployed, it's going to increase all team members, regardless of faction, regardless of row on the team comp. It increases all their damage by 4%. This boosts the increase by 50% from 4%, 2% higher to 6% if you get that A2. That is phenomenal. It does make a big difference. And like I said, A1 for Ymeric, big AoE thing with a big freeze. A3, he can do even more Winter's Bite, so much more RNG. This is brutal in GVG, and it's really good for progressing through any content. Phenomenal. I'd say for Ymeric, his A4, this is not good enough, and his A5, in my opinion, not really good enough. His range is fine as it is. It's nice, but it's not an investment you want. Ix, every single one of his Awakenings are good. Every single one, even the A4. -5 cost, he just got so much better in PvP. By a mile, I'd say the first 3 are the best. But if you ever just want to put your Unpolished Soulstones in a place where you can be so confident you know you did a good thing, Ix is always an excellent choice. Ymeric up to A3, always a good choice, every Awakening. And Ix up to A5, every single one, always, always good. And you can see that's reflected here in my rankings.
All right. So I want to pick up here. I'm going to do my man a solid and try to find like a good...
unnameable.
There. Sorry, I have a thing. I'm super ADHD, so like if there's a weird look on a face and I'm looking at my screen at all instead of my microphone while I'm making my content, it will distract me. So, all right, GVG specifically. And I want to very, 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 very specifically go into GVG. All of these are decent choices for Guild versus Guild. Like, all of these are actually good choices for Guild versus Guild. Even Kagiri. I know Kagiri's not like the top meta, but he is so friggin' annoying if you run into an A5 Kagiri and you're trying to like maw them down. So if somebody has like a really good watchguard team and there's an A5 Kagiri standing behind a tank that's got decent enough gear that he's not going to die or is just far enough away that you don't have to worry about him like doing stuff, it will instantly delete a maw. Like, you will watch the maw's hit points drop by like 50% if it does not have a full shield. It is insane. I have watched Kagiri literally two-shot maw. It is insane. So, again, sleeper hit. Most people don't use Kagiri because, quite frankly, it is easy to game him out. That said, he is super strong. But I think Sun Wukong by a mile is going to be, and has been so far in my early testing, better than Kigiri in terms of what he can bring to Guild versus Guild. So what really needs to be added? Sun Wukong A1 for Guild versus Guild specifically, amazing. So far, splitting hairs and specifically monkey business, getting that first ultimate off, and basically putting Sun Wukong in a semi-tanky build that can deal some damage has really been decent for what it's been doing. And then adding in that A1 where he gives everyone a res around him, like, well, I don't know, like this Sun Wukong has, right? This is insane, right? Like this ability works so good. So I do want to call out, like, hey, monkey business, and specifically, you know, this ability right here, this A1 is actually really good in Guild versus Guild. It makes defenses a lot more dynamic, and it makes it a lot more hard to deal with, right? Like it's a bigger challenge. So just calling that out there. In terms of the rest of this list, though, Lady Alexandra A5 is actually exceptionally strong. I've fought 3 of these so far. Like, they're very rare. I fought 3 Lady Alexandras. I've never won against her. And I mean that as like a full 3 crystal victory. I think I did manage to squeak a single dog in once. Like, that's not a good run. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty rough. Kind of going down to the if you needs, Hex A3 is great, Silas is all of those are fine, but honestly, you can kind of ignore a lot of them. The only other real big ones on the limiteds you love, Honora is kind of evergreen. You can get her all the way up at least A4, but arguably A5 is where she really does shine, because having that additional 20% damage when she drops her circles is actually really decent. It allows her to solo Maw pretty effectively. So you could actually use her as a single DPS and completely drop any other crowd control or like, Boreas or anything like that in a defense setting. I think these are all great. And that's all I really want to add to this, actually. I think this list is so, it's perfect. It's really good. I'm going to let Fastidious shine on the general aspects of what this list does. This list is great. It's actually, I would argue, almost perfect for low level GVG, low level, PvP and arena, and really any PvE content. The problem is how you actually get to use these at the highest tiers. That's where this starts to get to being a problem. So this is where we want to talk about like the dark side of Guild versus Guild, in my humble opinion. And I want to quantify my opinion, because generally speaking, I think a lot of people will talk about like, oh, like I have this opinion. Where does it come from? And not a lot of people will give you that context. And I imagine if you're clicking on this video and you've never seen my content, you don't know what I make, and you don't know how I play, there's probably going to be an issue, right? So what I want to say is, currently I'm 37th in arena. I was actually lower earlier, but apparently my defense broke, which is annoying. I noticed the problem is I'm slightly off meta. For those who don't know, I don't have constants, which pisses me off. But this is a story for another day. I was noticing on specifically this attack here that my Dolores is not getting rage as fast as she should be. So clearly the gear switched up and is now causing me issues. So I need to go figure that out. But that's for another day. But again, top 37 in Overlord right now. I'm trying to remember. know there's a way to like look at previous rank, right? Leaderboard. Last week's ranking. So you're gonna notice that like, let's see, where's last week? Pow. Where am I at? Where am I at? I don't even remember what I got last week. I wasn't trying very hard though. Did I really get in the 50s? Wow. All right. Oh, there I am. 67. Oof, that's rough. 67. I can generally, I'm always in like the top 100 easy. I'm usually in the top 50 most weeks. It was an AoE. AoE is my worst, right? But I'm nerdy about arena, right? Like I build to very specific numbers and have very specific breakpoints, and I pay attention to the people who can beat me, and then I go look at their gear and I figure out what it is that they're doing to hit before me on specific things so that I can get my timing so exactly correct that it hurts my brain. This is all I do, is literally just make sure that my arena teams are the best they can be. My guild currently is on a losing streak. So that sucks. But we just narrowly lost actually to Blunt Guts' guild. It was a very close match on Thursday of last week. Friday, Saturday match last week to Celestial Arbiters, right? Very narrowly lost to these guys. And ironically, we very narrowly lost to these guys. So I'm kind of looking forward to like if these two pair up. They won't though. No, they might, right? Because it's odd even, odd even, odd even. Yeah, they will. So, I'm very much so looking forward to seeing if CLS does as good or worse to Paladin Legends than we did, because these guys actually beat us pretty decently. This was so close. That was a coin toss. Anyways, that loss dropped us all the way into the 90s. We will be back in the top 30 guilds by the end of this week, right? We finished 16th last season. I have had brief stints outside of DS2 in other guilds that are in the top 10 right now. Are they in the top 10 right now? Well, yeah, I was in Slay for a very short amount of time. But that's main Slayers. And I work with them all the time on stuff. Nope, they aren't. Had a very brief stint in Immortal Dawn, right? Like I've been playing in the there. I've had a brief stint in a lot of the top guilds in Guild versus Guild. Like I've played against Mad Elite multiple times. Like I'm not a foreign figure to Guild versus Guild. I've played a lot of GVG. This is my main focus on my channel ish. My main focus on my like gaming. I literally do everything in this game for Guild versus Guild. So with that ranty preamble out of the way, what's my problem? My main issue is what you actually get to put your soulstones into. Because at the top level of GVG, if you want to be one of these guys in the top 10, if you want to be even somewhat competitive against these guys right here, Immortal Elite, what will it take for you to be on their level? It requires 2 heroes. Just 2 heroes. There are only 2 heroes you get to put soulstones into. Those heroes, and I'll start with the Lord, is going to be Yovar. Yovar is the highest BP Lord in the game. Period. For 2 reasons. One, he is a marksman. When you get him up to A5, you can easily get him to around 120,000 BP. He has exclusive gear, and that exclusive gear does give him a BP boost. So in his exclusive gear, with his, max skills, A5. I can't remember. Does he have a? I don't think he has one of these, the exclusive artifact. If I remember right. Yeah, I don't see it. But anyways, with all of that being said, he is the highest BP lord in the game. So those are your polished soulstones. You get 5 of those into Yovar. You get an A5 Yovar. It doesn't matter what the skills are. It doesn't matter what they do. That's all you're doing because you need it for BP. Because BP is the only stat that matters on offense. And offense is the only thing that you're ever going to need to focus on if you're ever going to beat a top 10 guild. Your defense is going to be what it is. It doesn't matter what heroes you're using. Your defense is what it is. You might get lucky. You might win. But if you have a high enough BP, it doesn't matter what team you're going against because you're going to be able to beat them. And sorry if I'm trying to mute the coughs. I'm getting over something. The other one is Uridan. And this is the part that makes me sick. So Uridan, up to A5, is the highest BP hero in the game. He does have an exclusive piece of gear. When you run him with a Wailing Skull, which is the highest VP artifact, regular mythic artifact in the game, right? Wailing Skull has equal BP to any exclusive artifact, which is why you specifically are using Uridan. With Awakenings, with his exclusive gear, and with a Wailing Skull, you can get him to around 135 to 137,000 BP. And then you need 3 more copies of him and a total of 20 soulstones, or just more copies at that point. Whatever floats your boat, really and truthfully. However, you can get 4 A5 Uridans, you need to do that. This is the only part of the content in the game that allows you to affiliate the same hero multiple times, right? Nowhere else in the game can you use the same hero in multiple spots for affiliation except for guild versus guild. Like, normally you wouldn't be able to do this, right? Where you have, we'll just do down here. You wouldn't be able to do this normally, right? Like, you couldn't normally just go in here and scroll all the way down and click on a green hero there, and then grab this and scroll all the way down and click on the same hero, even at different levels. Heck, we can do the same level. Why not? You can't do this in any other content, right? And the point is you, like, it makes no sense to me why you can't, like, you can only deploy the hero once in any other content. You can only ever deploy the hero one time. But for affiliation, you can use them as many times as you have them. The reason why you want 4 Uridan is if you decide to use Maw, Mach will only affiliate to lords. Right? So it has to be a lord hero, which means your best option is Yovar. So, like, I would love to use my soulstones on not Uridan. And I've been using my soulstones on not Uridan, and I regret that, actually, because it's made me less competitive. And it's made it a lot harder for me to attack in guild versus guild. And it's made my life worse. Because I chose to use the soulstones in the way that they're intended, not in the way that we have to. And so this is kind of my plea, my rant, my wish. Is I really do hope Moonton changes the affiliation system because this is stupid. I'm sorry. I don't like the way the current affiliation system works because there shouldn't be an incentive to only have one hero who is the best 4 times. Right? You shouldn't need 4 copies of a hero and 20 soulstones. You should only be able to use them once. And then force people to use whoever's next. Right? And to talk about, okay, well, what would that order then look like? Let's say we keep the same system exactly as it is, which I don't advocate for, by the way. What would that look like? So number 1, Uridan. Number 2, Lady Alexandra. And again, that's A5 with her exclusive artifact and good gear. Number 3 is then Jira. Similar to Uridan, her A5 plus a Wailing Skull, I can get her up to about 124,000 BP. Yovar is still Yovar. And then Kratos would be your number 5. And that would be your top 5. If you were to like continue down that list after that, like Ingrid's pretty high up there. Actually, Leia is surprisingly high if you can build her right. Do not quick equip Leia though. You have to manual it. There's been a few people that made videos on this, so like go check them out sometimes because there's a few people that will like quick equip a specific DPS and then like move that gear to Leia. I don't have her, so I can't show you, but it's pretty cool stuff. I don't know if Eris is good at all in this. Ironically, Maw is pretty decent for BP, but there's an asterisk. Do not ever awaken him. So like the difference between an A0 full skill Maw and an A5 Maw is 5k BP, and that's not worth stones. Do not do that. Like Jira goes up by 13,000, right? Uridan goes up by almost 25,000 with awakenings. Do not use them on Maw. There's way better options. Like if you're looking just to get over Maw's base BP, you can do that with an Ardea, and you can actually use her A5. So that's kind of the point, is like, yeah, Maw would be slightly higher than an Ardea, like A5 to A5, but like it's not. Actually, I don't even think he'd be over her. I think they'd be about equal at that point. So yeah, just shout outs to various heroes. Sorry, I didn't mean to cough. I don't know. I'm frustrated. I had to make this video. I had to get this out as soon as possible. Even being sick, even like getting over this thing, I had to make this video because I hate this. I don't like this current affiliation system. And with kind of Fastidious being a rock star that he is, making that video that was like, God, I love this. This is how I want to use my soulstones, and I know that I can't. I know that I'm not allowed to. I know that my free soulstone, because this was not where it went, my free soulstone went to making an A1 Uridan, who I'm never going to deploy. I'm literally only putting this on him because it's higher BP. And I hate that. And it bothers me. So make some noise, leave some comments. I mean, absolutely sound off. Let's get this thing changed. Because honestly, there's no reason that the affiliation system should work this way. At bare minimum, get rid of this archaic ability to put the hero down 4 times. Right? You should only be able to affiliate one hero 1 time. Bare minimum. If I were to give Moonton my preference, I feel like we should have an affiliation team. So, like, when you go into any piece of content, and I'm just going to show this. These are my teams. I don't even care that you see them. You only ever get 5 heroes, right? And so I'd love to be able to get into this screen for affiliation and literally just have like a team, because that would prevent you from being able to do that. And also, it actually helps to even the playing field for some folks, but then there's still the meta of the top three, right? So a great example is like you're still probably going to have like an A5 Praetus with an Ingrid, right? A Jira, because like you would still use these heroes because of the BP boost they give, because it's not like it's an exact, right? Like you can see here that's 116, and this goes all the way up to 300k. Like that should be what, 128, or sorry, 228,000, and this is 309. And that's because of that 15% stats that the lords give. I would prefer this over the other one, because then it helps to eliminate that guesswork, right? And it would even the playing field for a lot of players. So this would be my preference, is literally just having this but for affiliations. So give it a consideration. I don't know, Moonton, if you're watching, like, I'd be happy to work with you on anything there. Again, I made a video just recently criticizing the matchmaking system for Guild versus Guild. This is the other thing that's bothering me about GVG, is like the matchmaking's broken, and then you have this affiliation crap on top of it, and that's just, it's frustrating. I feel like we can do better than this. And since we're getting so many wonderful things in 2025, why can't we have one affiliation, one hero, right? Just saying. That sounds great. So, if you like this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Please consider giving this video a like. If you agree with what I'm saying, again, in the comments, sound off. It would really help to change this silly, frustrating, annoying aspect about Guild versus Guild affiliation, especially at the higher levels. And it would make this game far more competitive for everyone. And the last thing, given the nature of this video, because usually I'd end it off there, make sure to watch, if you somehow by some miracle not subscribed to Fastidious and didn't watch that video already, please watch that full video. I will leave a link down in the description. It's a great video. This is how this should work. I hope that most people ignore the dark side of soulstones and use them for the better purpose. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.